Welcome to Unpicking Dissonance, a podcast that brings together singular minds to map the reality behind mainstream narratives and make sense of the cognitive dissonance that comes from seeing through them. This podcast is brought to you by the Leeds UK music collective known as Fold. I'm Seth Moshewitz, the host of this podcast and Fold's benevolent dictator. In and through community lies the salvation of the world. These beautiful words are from M. Scott Peck's 1987 book, The Different Drum, Community Making and Peace, in which he argued that genuine community heals our isolation and division. We first came across this quote in a Bell Hooks lecture called Why Choose Love that we ended up sampling on our record Choose Love. Links to both are in the show notes. The quote became somewhat of a core message for our work as a whole. It eloquently represents our core beliefs, presents arguably the most important solution to the root of humanity's biggest problems, and does all of that in 10 words. I say it again. In and through community lies the salvation of the world. Today's episode features only the second conversation we've had so far, and already the emerging theme from both conversations is perfectly embodied in that quote. I'm speaking to another old friend, Gabi Rowson. Rather than a long editorialized introduction, this time we'll let the conversation do the work. Before we jump in, though, a word about why this exists. We started this podcast because the world is at a turning point and we refuse to look away. The same goes for our music and for the workshops we run for young people in Leeds who deserve access to this world. All of it is part of the same thing, an attempt to build something real outside the noise with the people who care about it. That's you, if you're listening. And if you'd like to support it directly, we're on Patreon at patreon.com/foldfm from $2 a month and on Bandcamp at fold.bandcamp.com from £3 a month. Our higher tiers mean your name is part of this show permanently, read out with genuine thanks in every single episode. Links to both, again, are in the show notes. So a huge thanks to our first £10 a month Bandcamp supporter, Eddie McSheffrey, and to our first $10 a month supporter on Patreon, Angelica Cordero. Lastly, a reminder to please follow the show in your favorite podcast players and to share the show with people you know. Every bit of support keeps this going, so thank you. Now let's get on with the show. Welcome, Gabi. So I'm recording in Leeds, UK, as ever. And where are you right now?
Poland, Krakow, Poland. Still after 15 years.
Have you been there 15 years? Oh, man.
Yeah, I have. And the funny thing is that, now Poland's cool. But when I first came here, everyone was like, why are you going there? Why are you going there? Oh, my God. Why are you going to Poland? And all the Poles were like, why are you going to Poland? And now, 15 years later, a lot of the Brits are like, oh, I want to go to Poland. How do you get there? Blah, blah, blah. So it's quite funny how the worm turns, really.
You get to be wonderfully smug now.
I do.
That's great. I wish I could say the same. I came to the UK 23 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
I kind of got stuck. I have kids.
How old are they now?
14 and 17. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, my God.
I know. Yeah. So hang on. You left 15 years ago. So that was 2011.
Yeah, around that time. Yeah. Before
we get into the heavy stuff, I just want to give you the opportunity to briefly introduce yourself in the more casual sense.
Right. So I'm Gabi, and I don't really know what to say. I mean, you and I used to work together quite a long time ago. How long ago was that now?
That was around 2005, 6.
Yeah, something like that. I was fresh out of uni, and we used to work together at a publishing house. And it was around then. Oh no, it must have been about 2008 because the banking crisis hit. And I remember one of the big labels that worked for us moved all their stuff to Germany, and so I was made redundant. And what happened after that was I temped for a while. I mean, this is kind of the millennial curse,
Yeah.
Fresh out of uni, crisis happens, once in a lifetime crisis, obviously. And so I was temping for a while, and then I had to retrain because I couldn't find a job that was permanent. And so I retrained as an English teacher. And after that, I was with my boyfriend at the time. And yeah, I mean, things started getting worse and worse in the UK, really. Rent started rising, housing prices were going up, wages were stagnating. And I think it all came to a head when David Cameron got in. Because at the time, Gordon Brown was Prime Minister, and David Cameron got in, and we knew it was going to be austerity. We knew it was going to be more of the same. And at that point, I was like, nah, you know what? Forget this. And my husband at the time was working in the city for every hour God sent. He wasn't particularly enjoying himself. He's half Polish, and his mum had just purchased a flat in Krakow a few years before, actually. And so we decided, I mean, I could do my English teaching job anywhere. His Polish is pretty good. And so we decided then to up sticks and leave. So that's the brief history. Why are we talking? I guess I shitpost a lot on Facebook, right?
Yeah, I
My
mean,
hot takes.
so the way I remember it, our conversations when we knew each other at the whatever creative agency was like a little bit more limited in scope, I think. This is how I remember it.
Yeah.
And we only really got into the deeper subject matter after we'd both left, and that was on Facebook. Yeah, of all things. Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, that's kind of how I remember it. You used to work, where did you used to work? Upstairs or downstairs?
Oh my God, I think it was upstairs.
Were you upstairs?
I think
Were you
so.
right at the top or right at the bottom? It was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, wow, that's really stretching my memory.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird place to work.
Yeah, I never really got to ask you about that either. I was kind of curious, like what it was like for you. It was a little bit of a boys' club where I was.
It was, I mean,
In parts.
it was weird, man. It was weird, man. I remember going there, I was fresh out of uni. Well, not fresh out of uni, but out of uni. And I just remember everything being so backdated. They used to print things off Excel and then type them back into Excel. It was like that kind of thing. Like there was so much paperwork. So I was like, I'm lazy, essentially. Listeners, what you need to know about me is I'm really lazy, and I like to find quick ways and short ways to do things to free up my time. So I automated a bunch of stuff and wrote them some macros and all of this stuff. And yeah, and then they were like, "Oh, thanks very much for your work. We'll see you later. First one in, last one out, or last one in, first one out, however it works." And so yeah, they got rid of me because I was too efficient, I think.
Oh man, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. It was weird. Like, I don't know. I still don't know what I was supposed to be doing. Like, admin stuff, supporting the CEO. Oh, that was something that happened as well. Like, one of my tasks was to write the CEO. This is how old-fashioned it was, right? Write the CEO's diary out, like all her meetings, but into a paper diary for the next year. Like, that was one of the tasks I had. And I was like, can't you just put it in Outlook? They were like, no, it needs to be in this like leather paper diary. And then obviously I fucked it up because, writing meetings out for a year is tedious business. And I had no time at work. And they were like, well, why didn't you take it home and do it in front of the TV? I do that. It's like, really? Okay.
Oh my
Why can't you
God.
just put it in Outlook and repeat the meeting and put it on your BlackBerry? She had a BlackBerry, the CEO. I remember, like one of those expensive ones at the time. It was really expensive. Why can't you just do it on your BlackBerry?
This was Cheryl,
No,
right?
no. Yeah. Are we allowed to name names?
I mean, first name, whatever. We haven't even named the company, so yeah.
No, that's true. Yeah, I remember being really annoyed with her because she was always wanging on about how she was buying golf clubs for her husband. And I was like, can you pay me more if you're like buying expensive golf clubs for your husband? Like, come on, man.
My best story was that the one Secret Santa that I can remember, I got Cheryl. And then I made it a point to go to Victoria's Secret and get her a bunch of like kinky stuff. And that went down really surprisingly well, actually.
Did it?
Yeah, I think she was like, wow, the balls on this guy. She
Yeah,
respected
man.
that. I don't know.
That's cool.
I normally wouldn't have done that, but yeah, something told me. I kind of liked her
I don't
in a
know
way.
what happened afterwards, man. I left and you stayed there, I think, for a while.
Well, that's the same kind of. I was facing the same kind of thing. I mean, my ex-wife was pregnant with our first child in early 2008. So that year I was like, I really don't think I can keep working for, an agency, because it was really tough hours. It was like,
It was.
yeah. So all the late nights and the crazy culture. And yeah. So I was looking for something a little bit more tame and manageable to have a kid in. And I ended up at the Royal Horticultural Society for like 13
Oh,
years.
nice.
Yeah. So that was my kind of full-time job after that. So I moved then that year, 2008. And then we stayed in London for another 3 years, and then the same choices you had to face. But we ended
Yeah,
up moving.
exactly.
We
Yeah.
moved north. We moved to Leeds.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, everyone faced the same choice, and
Yeah, that was our best option, certainly at the time. And it's all right. The north is cool. Leeds has been good to me.
yeah, I'd like to visit Leeds one day. I don't think I've been to Leeds before. It's one of the only cities in the north that I haven't been to.
I mean, there's not a huge draw. There's no like obvious tourist attractions or anything like that. But it's cool. It's got a lot going on culturally. It's a good music scene. It's small though. It's really small. And it lacks a decent public transportation system, which we all keep moaning about. It's the largest city in Europe to not have a tram or a metro.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's a very interesting factoid. I like them.
There you go. It used to have one a long time ago, but they got rid of it. So I also recall a couple of years ago, we promised that we'd pull each other up on any like flawed arguments or posting without fact checking, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I haven't really kept to my end of the bargain there, but only because everybody
Yeah.
with anything interesting to say has completely disappeared from my Facebook feed. And I guess we just haven't figured out where else to go yet.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I just stopped bothering because Facebook kind of turned into Boomer Book, and then like no one was really engaging anymore because of the algorithms. And it's not just that posts were getting missed, or it used to be like fun. It used to be fun on there, and there used to be engagement with people, and now it's all like adverts for flats, bullshit. I don't know, whatever is trending. It's basically like reels and nonsense, and I never really see anything from anyone anymore. And I don't think anyone really engages. Like everyone's on Instagram. I'm not really on Instagram. I don't really care for Instagram. I think
neither.
Instagram's a load of fucking shite, to be
I
honest.
can't
full
fucking
of
stand it.
full of wankers. Like, I was using it for a while, and then I was just like, I mean, what's the point?
Yep, that's the
If someone wants
consensus.
to message me, they can message me on WhatsApp. They can reach me on Facebook. If they really want to talk to me, then they can do that. And if I'm interested in seeing photos, then, just like, I don't know, put it on Facebook or something. I mean, Instagram winds me up for many reasons,
Yeah, same. Exactly the same. You can't really do
And I don't want to
politics.
see. Yeah, it's not even politics. It's just stupid people with their airbrush selves. And like, who saw your stories and like who didn't see your stories, or like bullshit. The manosphere is massive on there. Oh my God. All of that like wanky dating advice. And I started getting that stuff as well recently. Like,
Maxing stuff.
yeah, looks maxing and being like, what do they call it? Like the dating scene,
Oh, God help us.
not quite Andrew Tate, not quite that, but like all these fucking dating gurus, and they're like, yeah, women are like this, and wife material, and like,
Oh, my God. They're targeting you as well.
yeah, and the hose and the body count, and you should be looking for a young virgin who you can mold, and like blah 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 blah. And I'm like, man, these dudes are really fucking tragic. Like, honestly, is dating really that bad? Now, is that's all that's left suddenly? Is these fucking dregs of humans who look at women as material and don't want to pay for dates because I don't know why. I mean, there's a lot of anger and resentment, to be honest. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way that roles have changed over the past 50 years, and guys don't really know what to do with themselves, to be honest, or how to handle it. So they're like stuck in limbo, wishing for the old times past. But they ain't coming back, for my friends. They ain't coming back. We ain't letting it come back, sorry.
That's right. Not if we have anything to say about it.
No.
Dickheads.
Sorry, dudes.
I see. I don't get any of that on Instagram. I mean, every time I've created a profile, I curate the people I'm following. Obviously, like I'm the wrong demographic for that, kinda, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, Instagram is like okay for me. I don't get exposed to all that much weird shit. But as you say, it's all about reels and engagement and algorithms now. So
Yeah, well, you know what? I think what it is like the way the algorithm works, and I guess they just like to rage bait me. Like I'm pretty easy to rage bait. I won't comment. I won't comment and I won't say anything and I won't repost and I won't like anything
so how do they know they're rage baiting you?
because I hover over it. And you know, if you hover over something too
Oh,
long,
for too long. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, or you watch it once or twice and then you're like, what the fuck? You know, I need to see this again because this makes no fucking sense, you know? And then they start feeding you the more shit of the same stuff. And then you're like, wow, this rabbit hole is really incredible, incredible stuff. And I never thought I'd get into that rabbit hole because I'm usually doing like other kind of rabbit holes. But once I bite into a subject, I like to delve deep, you know?
Yeah, I was going to ask
And
that question at some point. You're somebody who likes rabbit holes as well?
well, yeah, I mean, I like to investigate the rabbit holes. I like to
Yeah.
see what people are thinking and what their arguments are and where they're getting their facts from and if their facts stand up, actually, because I think truth is really important in this world.
Oh, I couldn't
I mean,
agree
I
more.
went to, yeah, I mean, I went to a Catholic school, right? Actually, my first school was a Catholic school, and so was my second one. So primary school, Catholic school, church school. Secondary school, I went to convent school, where I was taught by nuns. And there's nothing that will set you away from religion faster than being taught by nuns in an all-girls school. And, you know, it was around that time that I realized it was just, you know, religion. I mean, maybe some people are spiritual out there, but for me, the Catholic religion was basically a bunch of bullshit. There were so many holes in the arguments. I had to learn the Bible back to front. You know, for GCSE, I was quoting out of the top of my head, you know, all this stuff and arguing basically against some of the teachings of the church.
Wow.
Because that was fun, you know.
I mean, double wow. Just wow to all of that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's where it comes from. Like, it really irritates me when people's thinking doesn't line up.
This is exactly what this whole thing is about, the podcast, and everything I'm about to ask you hinges on that fact right there.
Okay.
So let me just try and establish some common ground with a few assertions here. I didn't do this last time, and I regretted it because I had way more editing to do in the end. Okay, so just say if you disagree with any of this, but this is like the core assertions, if you like. So firstly, that stories and narratives form the cognitive scaffolding of our reality. 2, the reality fed to us by our institutions, like governments, the education system, mainstream culture and media. This reality consists of carefully constructed, often false, misleading, and always manipulative narratives and stories that, by and large, secretly or covertly serve the entrenched power structures that currently dominate the world. And by that I mean the elites of global society, the billionaire class, the deep state, etc. 3, certain people seem to be adept at seeing through all this manipulation to the, let's say, actual reality behind it. And this is what I mean by unpicking dissonance. So there's like always a degree of cognitive dissonance in the mind of the observer who's presented with a perceivably false reality and then has to reconcile that with actual reality. So figuring out what's really going on in the world involves a constant effort to unpick that dissonance. And that other people, possibly most people, don't seem to have this ability and simply accept the reality they're presented with. Perhaps because the system works reasonably well for them, but we'll come back to that later. And then there may also be some who have the ability and just simply choose to bury their heads in the sand, which is fine, sort of. So as long as I've known you, I've always assumed you to be among those people who have the ability to unpick dissonance clearly. And I'm no great intellectual myself. I don't believe anybody, least of all me, has a monopoly on the truth. But I do believe I also have this ability in like a low bandwidth capacity since I process information very slowly but deeply. So what's important to me here, though, is that throughout my life, the most interesting conversations I've had were all with people who are able to do this, who are able to unpick dissonance. So I'm interested to hear their stories. So your story. What they think's really going on in the world, how they deal with unpicking this dissonance on a daily basis, and then the idea is to gradually gather as many of these stories as possible in one shared kind of space and see what emerges from that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just going to comment that you're basically talking about Marx and Engels' theory of the superstructure.
Tell me more.
So basically, Marx posits that everything, that reality, and anything that goes on in reality is material. That's why it's called dialectical materialism, right? Hegel, who was a philosopher on the same line, and he actually wrote, I think Hegel wrote his theory directly opposed to Marx. Hegel said he was what we call an idealist, and he said that our mind forms the reality, whereas what Marx was saying was that the material forms first, and then the mind is a reflection of what is going on around us. So I'm not sure about the first part of your premise. Like, I don't know which side of your premise which side the first premise was on.
That is a kind of philosophical debate.
It's a philosophical question, but if you're going to work out what's true or not, you need to work out where you stand philosophically on this. Do you fundamentally believe that what you think can change the world, or do you think that you are stuck in the material and you can only change the world once you accept the material around you? You know, because some people really believe, like, you know, if I manifest it, it will happen. And there is some evidence to show this, actually, like fake it till you make it kind of stuff. There is some evidence to make it, but the question is what comes first, right? So Marx posits that the material comes first. So you have the base. The base is physical reality. So that's the land, you know, it's the land, it's the means of production, it's sex. And when I'm talking about sex, I'm not talking about bow chicka bow bow. I'm talking about the material, organic concept of sex of animals. You know, farming comes from this, and humans, the family comes from this. Engels wrote a really interesting book on the family and how that was the basis of how capitalism starts. I can't remember the name of it because I'm ranting, but I will get back to you on what that book's called. And yeah, so there's all this stuff going on at the base. And then what you have at the top of that is called the superstructure. And the superstructure are the institutions that come from how the material is connected to the humans. So, for example, you get the church, right? Things like church, religion, gender, marriage, all of this stuff. All of that is, and what Marx says, it's like a control mechanism which feeds back into the base. So, for example, when you look at the family, right, the concept of family, you could have many concepts. You know, there's different kinds of tribes, there's matriarchies, there's patriarchies, there's all of that stuff. But the stories we tell ourselves, you know, we might split up the land, we might build institutions on it, and then the institutions kind of form our human reality. So the sort of human institutions form our reality, and then those institutions can very much kind of blind us as to what we have access to or not, you know. So institutions are based on the material. That's what Marx posits anyway. And so what you're saying, which was interesting to me, about how some people can see through it and some people can't, these like institutions and basically the billionaire classes and all of that, it directly mirrors exactly what Marx said about the base and the superstructure. So yeah, I hope that was an okay explanation. If your listeners are interested, they could Google it and read about it for themselves, you know.
So yeah, I'm definitely aligned with what Marx is saying there. I am guilty for not having properly read Marx, I will admit. I did read some years ago, but I never read everything, and I know I really should. Do you know Novara Media?
Yes, I do. I can't stand them, actually. I think they're guilty. They're guilty of everything that they go against.
Explain how that works.
I think they see themselves as this kind of truth-seeking media, right? This like truth-seeking media. It's anti-establishment. It goes against publications like the Daily Mail and the Guardian and the billionaire class, quote unquote. What they say is, but what they don't realize is that it's feeding into their own narrative, and a lot of the stuff they talk about is essentially navel gazing. It's like navel gazing stuff, and I don't really rate them, to be honest, especially that twat Owen Jones. I can't stand him. as much this is the juxtaposition that I bring, right? As much of a kind of champagne socialist that I am.
Same.
Someone called me a champagne socialist recently, and I'm not going to argue with them because I do like champagne.
So do
And
I.
I think it should be readily available for everyone, quite frankly.
That's an interesting take on champagne socialist, but I tend to agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Champagne for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like, I don't believe these guys are actually authentically, because if they were authentically saying what they really thought and delving deep into what they really thought, they wouldn't be afraid of offending anyone. But they are. They know who their paymasters are too, and it's the anti-establishment people. Like, they're getting their buck from somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm very cynical about it.
I do tend to agree. And one of the things that does annoy me about them is they're a little bit arrogant.
Yes.
Intellectually arrogant, I would say. They're a bit too exclusive in the way they talk about things. They assume an awful lot of knowledge that most people probably wouldn't have. And it's always Marx. It's always Marx. And every time I listen to it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know I haven't read. And I'm like, but there are other people. There isn't just Marx. I mean, yeah, I know Marx had a lot of amazing things to say, and a lot of it is still relevant. But there are many different ways of looking at things, slicing and dicing information.
Exactly. For me, it's philosophy. It's all philosophy. I mean, Marx made some good points, but other people make good points as well. So you need to listen to everyone. And you can also. I was thinking about, what's his name? What was that name? Peter Hitchens.
Yeah.
I disagree with Peter Hitchens a lot. However, I do respect him, and the reason I respect him is because even though he has a completely different outlook to me, his starting point and his arguments from his starting point make sense. Like, they're logically consistent. And that's the most important thing. You can argue with someone very deeply and be completely okay with it because you respect the fact that they're arguing from a place of logical consistency. You just don't accept where they're coming from first.
Right. Yeah.
So, and what irritates me is actually when people just argue from a place of, well, I believe this, and therefore I'm just going to make anything fit it, basically. Like, it's not connected.
I tend to just be put off by anything that divides people into camps.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's perspective is valid to some degree.
That's very liberal of you, sir.
Yeah, I may disagree with it, but I'm prepared to listen and not just, bark.
Yeah, I mean, I will bark when shit stops making sense, to be honest.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I'm with you on that one too.
Especially when people don't concede, like, something that is clearly not real. Like, you can demonstrate this in many ways, and like, they just, continue to wang on. I mean, I don't really care for it. That's why I stopped posting on Facebook as well. People are so unwilling to compromise on their positions these days, or even just like go, oh yeah, maybe I was wrong, Maybe I'm wrong. People don't like doing that, do they?
No, they really don't. They really don't. This was a skill. I think when I was younger, I was definitely a hell of a lot more arrogant, and I did not like to be wrong. But I really don't mind anymore. I've been wrong enough times. I've been through a lot. I think I've learned a thing or two. And how to be humble.
You can look at it this way, right? I like being right. I like having the right opinion and the right conclusion. Therefore, if someone says you're wrong and I'm wrong, if I want to be right, then I should accept it.
Yeah.
And then you are right. And then you become what you want to be by conceding that you don't know everything and you aren't perfect.
Yeah. You want to grow as a person, no?
Exactly.
The goal is growth.
Exactly.
And I tend to try and be a little bit more solution focused rather than just, ruminating all the time.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of, well, again, Novara Media, there's others, a lot of it is a bit ruminatory, if I can say that.
Yeah.
There's so many people who have had incredibly good solutions out there, and I don't hear them mentioning any of them. I will cite E.F. Schumacher as one of my favorites, the guy who wrote a book called Small is Beautiful. Have you ever heard of that?
Nice. No, I haven't.
It was like a pretty big publication in the 70s. It was very popular. And this guy was an economist. He'd worked for the British Coal Board. I think he was an Austrian.
Yeah, I'm looking him up now.
Lived in the UK for a long time.
Oh, that's interesting. He was a protege of Keynes, and I like Keynes. A bit of Keynesian economics. There's nothing wrong with it. Friedman can move and get out the way. We've had 60 years of him move.
Oh my God! Yeah, enough.
Enough of you, Friedman. Get out.
If you haven't read That book, just read it. I personally think it is one of the most essential books written in the last 50 years. And almost nobody remembers it. My parents' generation all knew about it. And there's a lot of solutions in there that are still viable now. And it just gets ignored. It gets buried. He was an ecologist. He understood a lot of stuff. He made his own bread. He milled his own flour and made his own bread.
Wow.
And
so he was like the first proper hippie.
Kinda, but he wasn't really a hippie. He didn't in all other respects, wasn't really a hippie. But
yeah,
oh man,
yeah.
All of his lecture, he went on the lecture circuit after the book was unexpectedly quite successful, and every lecture is brilliant. The way he deals with crowd, just the way he converses with people, it's fantastic.
Wow.
I went down a big YouTube rabbit hole. I've sampled him, but yeah, he's just one who's full of great solutions, and you don't hear any of it. It's all buried. It's all very much deliberately buried, I'm sure.
You think it's deliberate?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, it's easy to write things out of the canon, You just don't include it.
Yeah.
You just exclude it. It's not that you have to sort of work very hard to bury it. You just don't promote it, and you don't include it in the curriculum,
A lot of people would go and say that, okay, it's deliberately being held back from us, by an evil conglomerate who are secretly running the world. I personally think it's just the nature of crowds, really. You just have people that are more interested in making some buck, and then they don't want to hear the rest of it,
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably the biggest factor. Sadly, yeah.
And then the people that make the buck won't read this kind of stuff because ultimately it means that you're going to have to share a little bit, and they don't want to share. Which is understandable. I mean, I don't really like sharing. I like my stuff, I'll give my champagne away, though.
Yeah, you can have some of my champagne. That's fine.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this was already great. I love it. But I have a whole list of questions. Firstly, how do you pronounce your surname, and are you happy to be that public?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's Rowson.
Yeah, I did wonder, because I'm Moshewitz. Yeah, Moshewitz, Rowson. They always, Mauschewitz is the most common mispronunciation.
Rowson is what I get as well. So, yeah.
I had a
same
feeling.
Thing.
Well, the first big one is, and this is a tough one because most people can't do this on the spot, but can you give a brief synopsis of your own core story? And I mean, in a sense of what's really important to you, like a personal mission statement in the classic sort of story form of setup, conflict, and resolution. I can give you my own example if you want.
Yeah, give me an example because I don't think I know what you mean.
Yeah, I know. Nobody's ever asked this question. So yeah, okay. So for me, I've written this, by the way. There's no way I could improvise this. Growing up, I was privileged to experience the best of what humanity has to offer. And it is antithetical to the continued exploitation of life and resources that we see happening all around us. I feel compelled to fight for a sustainable future in which everyone can have what I had, using my limited gifts and skills to the best of my abilities. Simply put, I have a vision of what a better world could be like, and I want to do what I can to make that happen for everyone. That's it.
Oh my God. I don't think I can come up with something like this.
No, I mean, yeah, that's
spot.
Highly edited.
Like a mission statement. I don't really have one, but what I can say to you is that I was heavily bullied and ostracized throughout my childhood, and that was at home and in school. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere, and as much as I desperately tried to fit in, it never really happened. And so when you're rejected constantly, and despite your efforts to try to fit in, eventually you're going to go, I don't really care. So I don't really care what you think, Mm-hmm. I'll be my own person and not worry about going with the flow. So as a consequence of this, I have kind of made it my mission to be a bit of a contrarian.
Right.
And a bit of a truth seeker, with not rocking the boat and pissing people off, but just not necessarily finding joy in being the same as everyone else,
Yeah.
So I find beauty in difference, actually. I think the more different we are, the more ideas we have and the more solutions we can form together. But I like my friends as well. It's not like I'm this loner with no social skills, although some people would beg to disagree. So yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a bit of a contrarian, but I find there's beauty in difference, and it's important to be your own person and not really give that much of a fuck about what everyone else thinks of you, not to fit in with the crowd anyway. So yeah, does that do it justice? I don't know.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's a big part of mine as well. What I meant for myself about like the best of what humanity has to offer is exactly that. I was lucky enough to grow up in a really inclusive family, and when I lived in the States, so I lived in the States until I was like 11 or 12 and moved to Holland. I mean, not a lot of American kids get to do this, but my parents were academics. They liked to move around. They had friends everywhere. So I didn't fit in the States at all. I didn't like it. I had some friends and, quite a diverse group of people. So I was always around different communities and different ethnicities and cultures. And even in the States growing up, when I got to Holland, like it just became all about difference, and embracing that. And yeah, that was my whole upbringing, was to celebrate difference.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm half Hungarian. I don't know if you knew this. You probably did.
That I did know.
So when I was growing up in London, actually, it was quite tricky, especially at school. And my husband, he found the same thing, that basically you keep that secret, And the moment they hear you speaking another language is the moment that you're done for. And that was, back in the 80s. I don't know if it's different now. But I remember even, when the Poles were coming over, there was this like whole undercurrent of like Eastern Europeans, send them back. They're all weird, da-da-da. So, it was a bit of a struggle. I mean, you coming from America, that would have been cool, right? Coming from Reagan country.
Reagan and Bush country, yeah.
Yeah. I was coming from Siberia, apparently, where the polar bears live.
Yeah, indeed. Being an American is like, an American in Europe, even at that time, I was considered exotic. And like, America's great, the American culture, this, blah, 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 which surprised me. I was just glad to get out of there. And then I went back for university, and I had to get out of there again.
Wow.
I was in New York for 9/11. And then a couple of years later, I managed to get out. I was handed an opportunity in London, and I just grabbed it. I was so relieved. But, I came to the UK, which has its own challenges, and they've increased with time, I would say. But I'd rather be here. I'd still rather be here. So I thought that was great. I thought your answer was really, really good, especially like on the spot. Is there anything else you would like to share about your background that might reinforce the depth of your story even further?
Oh, I mean, not really. Not really. I mean, I think I've overshared enough. I do tend to overshare quite a lot.
No, this is all about oversharing.
I don't like, a lot of people are very, candid about sharing their history and, their pains and their trials and their tribulations with any old randomer who will listen. But I think it's important to share, because you keep it a secret, no one's going to know that actually life can be really tough sometimes. And then you see the Instagram version of life. And then I think it makes a lot of people quite sad, actually. Everyone thinks that everyone else is here on the planet having a great old time, but it's not necessarily true,
Very much so.
And actually, I think, if you're a kind of person that doesn't share too much, I don't know. I think a lot of the time it's like self-defense.
Yeah.
To be honest. It's self-defense, and maybe just like chillax a little bit. Like, you're not that special, No one's that special.
Nope.
Not them, yeah.
Well, you've probably answered my next question already.
Oh, have I? Cool.
But I'm going to ask it anyway. So we're all born into the same system, but it seems to work for some and not others. Do you think of yourself as someone for whom the system works or doesn't work?
Nah. Nah, not at all.
Not at all.
No, although having said that, my life is pretty cushy right now. I think, to be honest, we talk about the rich class, the upper classes, the moneyed class, and everyone else. But I think there's room to talk about generational inequality as well. Like, had I been born 50 years ago, I'm sure I would be way better off than I am now. Way better off, just by circumstances of time. I think we're the first generation, and I'm going to say we, Seth.
I'm with you.
Yeah. We're the first generation to be like worse off than our parents.
It's true.
And,
it's true.
Yeah, and I look at what my mum's achieved and what my dad achieved, right? My dad, he came from a council estate in London, in Roehampton. His father came from, like, he was very, very poor growing up. I think he was even an orphan, but, let's just say he was. I think he had aunts or something, but, some money got stolen somewhere and he was left out of some inheritance. And yeah, so that was on my father's side. And his mum was obviously, not much better off. They were living in this council estate in Roehampton, and my dad was the first person that actually went to university free of charge. Well, in the family, I mean, university was free of charge then. And then my mum, she came over from communist Hungary with like nothing, right?
Wow.
She actually got here because she lost her book of contacts. She was supposed to go to France. And I'm still think that, there's something that is not quite right. Like, she's very forgetful, and she doesn't concentrate as well as maybe other people can, and tends to kind of lose track of what she's doing. So yeah, she lost this like contact book for all the French people. They released her from Hungary to go study French in France. And yeah, she lost it and then had to like escape to the UK, and then ended up making a life in the UK. Like, she got married to some guy and it was all a big fix. You could do that back in the day. You could fix your marriage back then. And, the guy she married, his girlfriend at the time was the witness to the wedding. So, both of my parents came from really harsh backgrounds, and like they managed to buy their own house several times over. My mum has a house in Hungary as well. So, and she squirreled away a fuckload of money as well. So she has plenty of savings. My dad had this pension. She's got a pension as well. And these are people that, for all intents and purposes, if they were born today, they'd have nothing. Like, there's no way that you could do the same thing in the same circumstance.
No way.
So, yeah, right? There's absolutely, good luck to you. I'm lucky enough to live in Poland, and the only reason we've managed to buy our own place here is because my mum managed to put some money away, and we were living in my husband's mum's flat, rent-free, basically. Lucky us, But again, she was an immigrant too, and she came over, and, I'm not saying they didn't have it hard. Of course they did. Everyone works hard, including me. But like, you talk about inequality, I'm sure there's a generational inequality going on as well. And I don't know why we put up with it, actually. Like, as millennials, why do we put up with it? Why do we let them get away with it? Not them, the parents, but why did we let them get away with selling everything? I mean, I don't know. I think they have to take some responsibility. I mean, we do live in a democracy, and I know it's not perfect, but you get what you vote for, essentially. I do believe that we need to make conscious choices about where our vote goes and who we choose to be our representatives. And ultimately, these guys chose to sell everything and put their kids into debt with university fees and, buy-to-let mortgages and selling the council houses and, making a quick buck. Like, it's outrageous, really, really.
A lot of stuff has happened without people really understanding what's going on. And, people half the time don't really know what they're voting for. Mm. And this is part of that reality that I'm banging on about. If all you have to do is sell people a story and convince them that you're going to do something great, you don't have to do it. You can do all kinds of stuff in the background.
Yeah, but do you not think people have a responsibility?
I do also think that, yeah, at the same time.
Because that's something that really annoyed me about the UK, actually, is that, compared to Poland, they take this stuff really seriously here, like really, really seriously. And people do generally, they do know what they're voting for, even if I don't personally agree as to why they are or how they're doing it. They do read and they do know. I mean, it's a very well-educated society, to be honest, as well. I mean, university is free here, so, a lot of people go to university and a lot of people are very well-read and people know what they're doing, basically. But I don't know, in the UK, I always got the feeling that they don't really take responsibility for their own thoughts. And you see this on these travel forums as well. It's like, how do I do this? How do I do that? And rather than looking it up for yourself and maybe doing a little bit of research as to where you're going and what currency, do they use the euro in Poland? It's like, you have Google at your fingertips, Why are you passing the buck to someone else to tell you the answer? Like, go find it for yourself. Really, it's not that hard.
You're right. There is a cultural element there, the nanny state, or I don't think it was always like this. I think this has happened since the Second World War. I'm not sure exactly why, but I mean, you do see this kind of, certainly in the UK and also in the US, you really see a steady decline in the level of public discourse. I know this because the work I've done with Fold, the music stuff with all the sampling, I've trawled through thousands of hours of archival recordings, speeches, interviews. If you listen to an interview with people in the 60s on public radio, it is 10 times higher level than anything you would hear now. So the kind of assumed level of background knowledge for the general public, and just the way anybody would speak, Joe blogs off the street, you could tell that the discourse has been...
You know what I think that is? I think it's because people actually used to speak to each other. And I don't mean like on the internet, like, you know, keyboard warrioring. There used to be communities back then. You used to know who your neighbours were. You used to speak to them about the issues. You knew who your counsellor was. You didn't really care about what was going on, you know, the other side of the world because, you know, it's got nothing to do with you. But people were more close-knit.
Absolutely.
And as a consequence, they knew the local issues much better. And, you know...
I think that's absolutely true. It's this atomization of people. Ripping apart the communities, the patriarchal nuclear family, these very narrow structures. So you're no longer raised by a village. And it does take a village to raise a person.
It does take a village. It does take a village. And actually, you know, we talk about, it's a bit of a tangent, but we talk about, you know, the mental health issues of Gen Z. And a lot of it, I think, is because they grow up in isolation, really.
100%.
I mean, you know, like if you have your family, like say you've got a nuclear family, you know, now our families are like long and thin now. You know, you might have one very old grandma and your parents, and then people don't. I don't know. Some people have like cousins and things like that they see occasionally at Christmas and Easter,
if you're lucky,
a weekend or so, if you're lucky, and then the kids. So if you've got a very long, thin family, all it takes is one or two fucked up people to fuck you up, right? Whereas if you're living in a village with extended family, aunties, uncles, cousins, everyone else, and your parents happen to be very fucked up people, there's going to be someone else there that's going to be able to bring you stability and tell you that, you know, you're worth it, or show you how to live, or show you different skills or a different way of looking at things. For kids, that's really, really important. It doesn't have to be like, you know, a massive village. But I really do believe that it does take a village to raise a child. Not, you know, like educate them, you know, make sure they do school. But I'm talking more about like emotional intelligence and well-attached people.
Socially connected people.
Socially connected. And yeah, so you're not like constantly worrying if you got like weird parents. Are they going to come? Are they not going to come here? Are they going to, you know?
It's absolutely true. And there's also more support for parents who are fucked up in that kind of community.
Yeah.
They're less likely to stay that way.
Yeah, or if they are fucked up, they can go and do their own thing, and someone will be there to, you know, take the responsibility, because there's always someone there to take responsibility, really. There's always some kind soul that will go, okay, I'll step in here just because I like this person, you know.
But I think you're absolutely right about that. Especially Gen Z is the most isolated generation ever. And they even had the pandemic, you know. So like I've seen,
right.
Both my kids are Gen Z.
I mean, it's very ironic, isn't it, that we're the most connected we've ever been. Like, if my grandma was still alive, I could phone her and talk to her from the other side of the planet and all of that. But at the same time, paradoxically, we're getting less and less connected because of all the bullshit and the noise that surrounds us every day.
Yeah, and just having to, well, in my case, just having to work all the time. I don't have time and energy to keep up with all these communications. A lot of the work involves a huge amount of communication, so I'm burned out.
Yeah.
So well done us having this conversation at all. Kudos.
Well, I was like, I really can't be bothered. I've just finished like an 8-hour shift, basically.
Thank you so much, by the way.
I really can't be bothered, but I've been promising you for weeks, and I can't let you down again. You know? That would be really unfair and mean.
But I totally understand. You know, I was working all day too. I'm like, well, yeah, no, come on, it's gonna be great. So thanks. Okay, yeah, I've got some more questions. At what point in your life did you first become aware that you thought differently about things than you were supposed to?
As soon as I went into definitely primary school and possibly even nursery.
Wow.
Yeah, I never ever felt connected to the other people around me weirdly. Like I didn't have the same interests. I had like weird hobbies, you know. Even my music taste was weird. I remember in primary school, everyone was into like New Kids on the Block and like all of this stuff, and I was listening to the Rolling Stones and the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band and the Electric Light Orchestra and all that weird stuff that you know isn't cool. It wasn't cool at all, like old-fashioned stuff back then.
Yep, me too.
And because my parents were relatively unwell off, compared to everyone else, I wasn't wearing the latest Nike fashion, so I didn't really care about it either. Probably because my mum didn't really care about it, and weren't into that kind of thing as a family. So I realised quite early on that I was being raised a little bit differently to other kids. I'm sure it's part of the cultural heritage,
Yeah.
I mean, back then the differences would have been enormous, right? We didn't have mass media and television, and my mum would have grown up in a culture where education was the most important thing, and then you go to the UK and the most important thing is like what shoes you got and what brands you're wearing, especially in school. It was tough. It was tough.
So that's really early. I mean,
yeah.
I can't really remember. It was maybe primary school for me, but there were differences quite early on too. But to be able to remember nursery, wow.
Yeah.
You win.
Well, I remember there used to be this toy that I was fascinated with. There's like this weird tree, like plastic tree that would like pop up. It'd have a pop-up top. And then you could play with, I don't know, maybe your listeners remember this one, that you could play with bits inside and there was a slide attached. So I would always be fascinated with this thing and the mechanisms of it. And I was quite boyish as well. So I was really into kind of putting things together and taking things apart, the boys' toys. And everyone else was finger painting. And I just couldn't be bothered with it. And potato stamping. And that to me, it was really, really boring to me. I really liked to take things apart and see how they work. And, things with mechanisms, that was me.
Tinkering.
Yeah.
Getting to the nitty-gritty of things, figuring out how they work.
Exactly. And I still do that now, actually. Even when I was a teenager, if your CD player broke or something stopped working, I was the first one there with a screwdriver to take it apart and blow the dust in it and see if I could find the wire that got loose and reconnect it or something.
Super cool.
I was always looking into that. One of my favorite hobbies when I was I say it was a hobby, is one of my favorite ways to pass the time was to open my mum's sewing box, because every household had a sewing box and it was always a big mess. It was like spaghetti, and I used to love taking the threads apart and putting them back together, so all the colors were together. It was really satisfying for me to untangle things.
So a lot of this sounds very, very familiar to me. I mean, some of it I can relate to, but a lot of it I can see in my kids, or at least one of them. If you don't mind my asking, so the neurodivergence has become a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to find a language to understand neurological differences between people, which we definitely didn't really have growing up, like you and I growing up. My parents' generation would think of somebody who's autistic as being unable to communicate, really kind of extreme behavior. And this is turning out not to be so much the case.
Well, I guess back then they used to differentiate between autism and Asperger's as well. So give them a bit of credit.
Well, so I don't want to out my kids, but they told me it was all right to say that they both have autism diagnoses, and one has an ADHD diagnosis as well. I'm on the waiting list for an autism diagnosis myself. So this has become a big thing. I have mixed feelings about it, because on the one hand, I've had to reframe my life through that lens, and it's been interesting to do that. I've had to mask a lot my whole life. I've not really understood my own needs very well until more recently, because of not understanding the kind of neurological differences. So having gone through this odyssey with my kids, the sort of whole diagnostic odyssey, I've come to understand myself better. I definitely am autistic, I'm sure of it. But when I talk to people about this, as I say, I have mixed feelings. I'm not sure it's all that helpful to everybody. And I think we have a long way to go with the language, and things become labels very quickly and become sort of excuses. But have you thought about this, you yourself, in relation to yourself?
I did think about it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they diagnosed me, because the thing is, they do diagnose people with a lot of stuff these days.
That's also true.
But I often do wonder what the point is. It's like they call it neurodivergence, and I just wonder how divergent it actually is, unless it's like at the extremes. Everyone has this like spectrum of ways of being and ways of thinking, and sometimes it causes problems, especially if you're going through a very rigid school system. But I think we've moved away from that a little bit now. Maybe it was worse when I was a kid, and I have thought about it, but I wonder what good it would do, really.
Good question. Yeah, the whole concept of neurotypical is really it's an arbitrary point on the map, but it does mean something.
Exactly.
It does mean it's a place that capitalism, or whatever you want to call it, the system, the late stage hyper-capitalism, it's convenient for more people to be that point on the map. It serves the system.
Do you think so? I'm not sure.
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna. Well, maybe it does, but I don't know if it's just that. I also think there's something fundamentally human about wanting to find the kind of norm, quote unquote norm, because it brings a sense of stability, and society needs kind of stability in order to function properly.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I would include that at the same time, but it is much more convenient for a school to give everybody the same treatment, to not have to cater to individual cases, to not have an open environment, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's also a case of money, really.
Well, yeah.
And I don't mean like who's rich and who's not. I mean just like how much are you going to spend trying to cater to everyone, and how successful is it going to be? When resources are limited, you have to pool them somehow and use them to benefit everyone, or the mean, or the media. People have to decide how that resource is going to be used in order to benefit either everyone equally, or so it benefits the majority most of the time, or if you're an asshole, it benefits me and only me.
Well, I do agree with that too, but I think there are many different ways that we could be doing things, especially within the education system. You could allow children to be a lot more free. So have you heard of Carl Rogers, the humanistic psychologist?
Yeah, I have.
He's another one who had great solutions. So he's kind of the godfather of humanistic therapy.
Yeah.
And his whole thing about education was that the true aim of it should be to facilitate learning rather than transmitting knowledge.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was a great TED talk by this guy called, I can't remember his name, Sir Ken Robinson. He died a few years ago. And this TED talk is like 20 years old or something. And so he was like some schools person. And his talk was about where the schools kill creativity. The parallel he made was to like a Victorian factory. You have your batch numbers, like this is the batch of 2007, this batch is 2008, batch of 2009, whereas people grow at different rates. Something that always appealed to me, especially, because I was teaching English for a long time, and I taught kids as well, wasn't to separate the kids by age, but to separate them by their ability, and not just ability, but the way that their brain worked. Because if your brain is, and people have different ways of learning, some people are more tactile, they like to move around, they remember things more when they're physically there in the room.
Yeah.
Other people have photographic memories. Other people, you can tell them, and I'm one of these people, you can just like, I'll listen to something and be able to recall everything or nearly everything that was told to me. That's what I was like when I was a kid. So I would just listen to people and just retain all that information. I never wrote anything down. I didn't have to, because I had a great oral memory. So, you could theoretically group kids or people rather than by age, which I think is completely arbitrary. People grow at different rates, than by learning ability, or, and I don't mean ability as to like IQ. I mean just how your brain is working to retain and get information and remember it.
There you go. That's another great potential solution we should put on the table.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I take your point about like the point, what is normal, and then there's a point, an arbitrary point, and the point is arbitrary. But that point is not going to be either of the extremes either.
No.
There's like an Overton window of where that could go.
I think of it in terms of the sensory profile, because I've been through this so many times now with the diagnosis and everything. So I think it's the most helpful to think first in terms of sensory profile. So you have all these different senses, and neurological difference starts with having under and over sensitivities in certain senses, interoception and proprioception, and yeah. People who are quote unquote neurodivergent tend to have a spiky sensory profile, which means You might have an oversensitivity to light, which means that you don't like really bright classrooms with horrible fluorescent lighting. So it's then challenging to cater for everybody. But again, grouping in terms of learning ability, grouping in terms of these sensory profiles might be a lot more helpful.
Yeah. I do recommend the talk, though. Do Schools Kill Creativity? It's a great 20-minute lecture. It doesn't take very long to listen to.
Sir Ken Robinson, was it?
Sir Ken Robinson, yeah. It's when TED used to be good and not bullshit like it is now.
Ooh, fight and talk. I'll just throw in the Carl Rogers lecture is 1967. I think it's UCLA. It's really, really good. I'm sampling it currently.
Yeah, 1967 Carl Rogers. I'm gonna remember that one because I love these old lectures. Not even old lectures, new lectures as well. There's a great YouTube series from Harvard. I think it's Harvard or Stanford. Maybe it's Stanford. From a lecturer there. It's a couple of years old now, but I remember being fascinated. It's called How to Be Right, or The Law, or something like. It's like this legal lecture, and there's like 20 of these lectures, and they go into like moral philosophy. It's all about moral philosophy and the trolley problem, and bringing real life into it, like the marooning of that ship that I can't remember the name of, where they pulled straws and then someone had to be eaten.
Oh yeah.
And how we form our morality and what it means for the legal system. It's like a fascinating YouTube series.
Please send me that.
And it's by the university as well. I'll look it up later.
Thanks.
Anyway, do you have any more questions for me?
I do.
Oh, here it is. I've found the YouTube link. It's called Justice, What's the Right Thing to Do? And episode 1 is called The Moral Side of Murder.
Ooh.
If that's not tantalizing enough for you.
I'm hooked. Okay, so I've described this process of unpicking dissonance. This is my phrase I like. So how do you kind of cope with that on a daily basis? Do you find it a burden? Do you have to switch off sometimes and just, have some champagne?
Yeah, well, I do now, actually. I never used to, but, as I'm getting older, I'm getting more and more pissed off. And as I've learned so much, I think my tolerance of bullshit is becoming less and less. Maybe that's, part of becoming a wise old crone. Maybe that's why witches were burnt. We knew too much and we got too annoyed about it. But I do feel like my tolerance is running out. And, rather than being like my aunt is, in Hungary, who is a massive Fidesz, Viktor Orban fan.
Oh, Lord.
And completely, it's very interesting, completely hammering Facebook all day long and ranting at anyone who will listen. I've kind of reeled it back a lot and I've stopped listening. I've stopped listening, like you said, Navarro media. I used to do a lot on Twitter. I used to tweet a lot. I had something like 2,500 followers on Twitter, just, for shit posting about politics. And
that's more than Fold ever had,
Yeah, you should have let me do your social media for you.
I'm really regretting this now.
Yeah, you just need to hammer a point occasionally or just do a bit of shit posting and eventually, you'll get the numbers. Not anymore. I mean, Twitter, X, it's like no fun anymore. And to be honest, and I don't think any social media platform is that fun anymore. Like not Facebook, not Instagram, not Twitter, YouTube. The algorithms are fucked up there. Like they don't have half the cool stuff. Everything's AI slop now as well. Like the amount of AI videos, of random people talking. It's not as good as it used to be. Going back to the old crone, it's not as good as it used to be, is it?
No, but that's true.
Back in the day.
That is just absolutely true. It's the consensus.
So I just kind of switched it all off and went back to gaming.
Nice. Are you a digital gamer?
I bought myself a PS5.
Okay.
And like an open what do you call it? Like basically I can just buy stuff that's free.
Oh, Steam?
On the shop. Yeah,
kind of
not Steam. It's like the PS5 equivalent. Yeah. But I'm thinking about getting a laptop. I need to get a new laptop because this one is just like dying on me. It's been dying on me for 5 years, but I'm poor, so I can't afford one.
I hear that.
So I'm thinking about getting a laptop, but actually like tabletop games as well. Recently, a couple of days ago, I was playing with a friend of mine. I think it's called Horrific or something. And it was really, really fun. I was playing with like a cooperative with my friends.
Oh, man.
And it's really cool. Like you're in this village and you have like monsters that are trying to eat you and the villagers, or kill you and the villagers, and your character is like this hero and they will have special abilities, and then you take a turn and then the monster takes a turn, and you have to collect items to defeat the monster and lead them certain ways, and like basically you have to talk a lot and collaborate to make sure that you don't die, the villagers don't die, and the game doesn't defeat you.
Okay, I'm already desperate to play this now.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I had such a good time, and I'm sure Irene will be listening and she's gonna go, yeah, it's a great game. So yeah, like I quite like the analog versions of it as well, to be honest.
I love tabletop games. So my big thing was during the pandemic, I was like, I need something that's not screen-based.
Were you playing Pandemic during the pandemic?
No, I did actually buy it to have at home. But so I used to be a Magic the Gathering player way back in the day, like an OG player. But I've always been a huge Tolkien fan as well. I got into this game. There was a card game that came out, another collectible card game like Magic, shortly after, like a couple of years after Magic started, and it was Middle-earth. And I remember I started collecting it at the time, but the rules were so complicated that nobody wanted to learn how to play it with me. So I kind of left it, and then something triggered a memory of that during the pandemic. I was like, I really need a non-screen-based activity to get completely absorbed by. So this game that's been out of print for since 1998.
Wow.
So I've had loads of fun collecting, like trying to get all the, there's thousands of cards. And it's really interesting. Like it's a kind of hybrid tabletop card game. You've got a map, you've got dice, you can move the counters around.
Oh, that sounds
I think you probably would like it. But it's a bit of a learning curve.
You're making me giddy. Stop it, Seth. Stop it. You really know how to talk to ladies.
I'm so happy that floats your boat. I talk to people and they just switch off.
I love it. No, I love it. I mean, that's half of my problem as well. I've got a bunch of games here, and I've got no one to play them with, and it makes me so sad.
I could never find enough people.
It makes me so sad.
But thankfully, my daughter, bless her, beautiful heart, she's learned the game, and like she's 14 and she's really good at it. Like she's managed to learn all the rules. It's a really nice way to connect with her. So I at least have one person.
And it's good to get off the screen. It's
exactly.
good to get off the screen. We have too much of it,
She loves that. She loves anything that's not screen based as well. She's really trying. Like she has a CD collection.
Yeah, I have a theory about maybe not Gen Z, but Gen Alpha.
Ooh.
I think they're going to get, I say it's a theory, it's more like a hypothesis. If we're going to be like technically correct about it, it's going to be a hypothesis. Like they see, how the generation always rebels against their parents?
Yes.
Right. So we are the first internet generation. We lived our lives through internet screens after the age of like 14 or so.
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah. So I think what the kids are going to do, they're going to go back underground.
Go analog.
I reckon they're going to turn off their phones. Like they're going to hit teenage years. They're going to rebel. They're going to turn off their phones and go, this internet shit, this stuff is whack, man.
Yep.
We're bringing the clubs back. We're all going underground. We're going to put the phones in lockers and no one can reach us for 2 days.
That's right. We're going to take Polaroids and we're going to write zines and photocopy stuff. And I can already see it happening.
And the government will not know what the fuck we're doing.
Exactly.
No one's going to be able to see what we're doing. It's going to be like rebellion. That's going to be the rebellion. Yeah. For us, the rebellion was being online and like shit posting on AOL Messenger and like meeting random people from the internet that you met the day before, and then your parents going, oh my God, I hope you don't get murdered. Whereas for them, it's going to be like, let's go underground.
I think you're totally right.
Let's turn our phones off. I hope it does happen.
The cool Gen Z, whatever, are already leading this. So my daughter's like right on top of that revolution. She's going to be one at the helm of that, I think.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Do you know what? Like I flew to Porto with my partner a couple of years ago. There was this huge blackout. The whole Iberian Peninsula was like out. Do you remember that?
Beautiful.
So we landed right when that started. It started while we were in the air and landed the plane with this blackout.
So you saw all the lights go off?
No. Well, unfortunately, it was daytime. We had no idea until we landed. But the airport was on emergency generators and we couldn't get cash. My partner was kind of panicking a little bit. But I was like, no, this is what I like. This is a situation that I thrive in. I absolutely loved it. And we finally we made our way to Porto somehow, like on this bus, and then there was cash. We managed to get cash somehow. And There were no traffic lights. It was nuts. Like, people actually handled it really well. And then there were no refrigerators, and we had to like somehow find a meal, and nothing was working. And everybody stopped looking at their phones and started talking to each other. And it was
so beautiful. I love
the
it.
best day ever. It was like being back in the 90s just for a day, you know? And it got dark. There were no lights. There was candles everywhere. We met people.
You could see the stars.
Stars in the middle of the city, and you could drink wine, and just everybody was chatting away. And then it all got switched back on, and it was just back to normal. It was so
life
disappointing.
Went back to normal. No.
Yeah. That was like one of the best experiences I've had in recent years.
But, we wouldn't be here talking to each other either. So,
True.
We'd have to record it on the phone like in the old days. Landlines.
I'll send you a cassette.
Send me a mixtape on cassette, please.
All right, I'll just ask a couple more questions because we're probably both reaching the end of our limit here. So, I actually meant to ask this one earlier. As a woman, have you experienced significant misogyny among intellectual circles?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And people will, they'll brush it off as like, oh, you just need to be more assertive. Oh, you just need to do this. Oh, you just need to do that. But I did music technology at university. So I did recording studies, basically. How to mic up a drum kit, how to record stuff, edit stuff, music technology, mixing desks and all of that stuff. And at the start of it, I was one of 8 women on that course. One of 8.
Out of how many people?
On a course of I think it was 130.
Oh my God.
It was a real boys club. And the first year was a nightmare. Like, the very first assignment we had was to basically write a visual representation of music, but a visual representation that does not yet exist. So it's like, if you were to write a score, how would you do that?
Interesting.
But you can't use the stuff that we have at the moment. It's got to be like original way of writing, like notating music.
It's kind of a cool challenge.
It is a cool challenge. I thought it was a fucking awesome challenge, but there's a lot to consider, especially if you're like heavily into music like I am. It's not just a case of, the pitch, it's a case of the timbre and the pitch and the direction of the music and, where it's coming from and where it's going and all of that stuff. So my idea was to do like a skyline, like a balloon, and the balloons can be different shapes and different sizes, and higher up these balloons are floating in the sky, the lighter the pitch and the kind of package. You have the basket, the kind of basket that they has represents something, and you might stick something on the basket. I think I put something on the basket that showed the direction that the sound was coming from.
Cool. And
the kind of the waveform that it more closely represented.
Yeah, I get it.
And I thought it was really fucking cool. And the thing about this assignment is that it was going to be peer reviewed. Okay.
Right.
That's the key there, peer reviewed. And when it came to like the presentation of your reimagining of how to write music, I was in a class full of boys. And I say boys because they were 18,
Yeah, that's fair.
And I presented the thing, and I was watching them present their thing, and a lot of them were very much like stuff we already have, like on the for example, on like Cubase or Logic, when you go into the music editor, you have the keyboard up the side.
I know only too
and
well.
Then you have like the length, and then you can like manipulate some of the sound waves, and that's like notated on the representation of the keyboard. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking
imagination
about
whatsoever.
Yeah. Basically, they just copied it. They copied it, or it was very similar to music notation, or none of it made any sense and it didn't practically work. A lot of it was like that. Like you couldn't feasibly recreate the piece of music from what they were basically showing. And one of the guys, everyone voted to give him like a 2-2 because it didn't work. And then, one of the other guys, they gave him a first. And then it was my turn, and I gave my presentation. I was pretty confident about it. And I left the room, like, smelling my own farts, going like, yeah, I've got this. I smashed it, And I came back, and I think in the end, they gave me a 2-1 for it. But I found out later from the lecturer that they wanted to give me a 2-3. Like, they wanted to give me the lowest score in the room. And the lecturer had to step in and say, she should be getting a first. You should be ashamed of yourselves. But because this is peer review, we're going to give her a 2-1.
That sucks. So they were threatened by your genius, basically.
Well, they were probably threatened by my vagina, to be honest.
Maybe a bit of both.
Well, I don't, I mean, people will say, oh, well, there's no outright evidence of sexism there. But, like, either it was sexism or they really didn't like me.
Yeah. But they couldn't objectively look at your work and judge it on its merits.
Yeah. And so, eventually by the third year, from 130 people, we were down to 20. That's how many people dropped out of the course.
Lightweights.
And, yeah. And out of the 8 women, 4 remained.
Wow. Okay.
So that goes to show you, really, the staying power. And then I didn't finish the course, actually, in the end, because I just got sick of the bullshit. Because it was too hard. Like, it was too hard trying to work with these dudes. Like, they wouldn't listen to you. You tried to book the room and they were always pushing in front of you. And, like, in the end, I was like, do you know what? Fuck this for a game of cigars. Like, I'm out.
Fair play.
Go play football with your toy,
Okay. That was a great answer. I loved that. I mean, sucks that happened, obviously.
I didn't love it. It really sucks.
But it's a good example.
It really sucks. Yeah. I think it's better now. I do think it's better now, though. I do. Like, I can see it in work as well, in, like, work culture and, like, where I work now. It's a lot different.
Would you say that's Poland specifically, or?
No, I think everywhere.
Okay.
I think everywhere. I think it still exists. I mean, obviously, I'm not young anymore, and I'm not at university anymore, and I'm not, living the same lives as young people today. But I really doubt that would be allowed to happen today. That kind of thing. And also, like, letting kids peer review other kids is fucking stupid in the first course at university. Like, give some instruction in how to do it properly,
Yeah,
and how important it is.
Because it's so not something that you would normally do, There's no frame of reference for that. If you have no experience of doing that, it's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, exactly.
So at this stage in your life, do you feel empowered to make a difference in the world?
I feel empowered to make a difference in my world, but not the world. The world is too big and there's too many people. And I don't have enough cash.
So it's a case of think global, act local?
Yeah, exactly. And I do believe in, like, localness, actually. I think even when it comes to, like, food and things like that, I think if we eat locally, some people are, they're vegetarian or they're vegan, which is, fine. I'm not casting judgment on people's, choices or ethical choices, but ultimately I think it's probably far more beneficial for everyone to eat locally than vegan, for example. For example, if you live in a really arid part of the desert where lambs grow aplenty but trees and plants take a lot of water, then really, one is clearly going to be environmentally better than the other. But that's just one example. But I do believe, in local politics, local economy first and foremost. It's base up, ground up, pyramid from the bottom up.
It's community and having a collectivist mindset is going to make the big difference. And I do think also teaching people how to recognize the way they're being manipulated by narratives and stories. It's something that's left out. You're not really encouraged to ask questions of authority or...
Just go talk to your neighbours. Rock up at a local council meeting.
Exactly. Yeah. Get engaged. Have conversations. And listen. You can bark if you need to, but listen first. Okay, one last one then. If you had to choose one message to convey to the world right now, what might it be?
Switch it off.
Yes.
Switch it off and go outside.
Excellent.
Go look at the birds. Listen to the birds sing,
Beautiful. I think I might go and do that,
On that note...
My partner's cat is staying with me right now. She's 20 years old. She's awesome. But she's been sat by my ankles for about 20 minutes now, just going, what are you doing?
You should go and pay attention. Go and pay attention to your cat.
I should.
And listen to the birds sing. Nice.
Thanks so much for having this epic conversation, Gabi. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close?
Nope. I'm going to go and have some champagne.
Kind of wishing I had some now. Yeah, I'll try not to leave it, whatever it was, like 15 years for the next conversation.
Yeah.
I'll try not to.
Okay.
Cool. All right, you take care.
You too, man.
Talk soon.
Ciao.
Ciao.